welcome to the third annual Freedom of the Seas Awards, the premier annual event of the National Museum of the Surface Navy and the Battleship Iowa. I'm Jonathan Williams, President and CEO of the 501c3 nonprofit organization that was established and operates this great museum, primarily through earned revenue and the generosity of thousands of Americans, including each of you. Daily, we bring people together from all walks of life to gain greater awareness of the role our military plays in safeguarding freedom of the seas, as well as our surface Navy plays in protecting that across the water, free movement of trade and commerce. Our efforts culminate with tonight's event, when we celebrate leaders of industry, government, and the military that represent the ideals of our nation's surface Navy. As you look around the room, you'll see civilians, business leaders, veterans, military leaders, and our youth. Tonight, I not only invite you to celebrate our awardees, but as well as our youth essay contest winners, but to make a big wave to our virtual audience across the nation tuning in to enjoy the show. So make sure you're on the best behavior for those cameras. First up are our nation's leaders of tomorrow from Troy High School, NJRTC, led by Surface Navy veteran Commander Bill Lopper for the presentation of colors in our national anthem. Please stand for the presentation of colors. Color Guard, present the colors. Color Guard, retire the colors. Alrighty, you passed the first audience participation event of this evening. Don't sit yet. Please remain standing. We've got another audience participation event. And join me in welcoming our next guest, the Vice President of UPS West Region Public Affairs. He's a 44-year veteran of that shipping giant. He's the chair of our President's Advisory Board and a friend of all of us, Bruce Double D. McCrae, for the benediction.
Thank you, Jonathan. Admiral Shatinsky, I got your note. Please keep it to 3 minutes. I have it, sir, so not a word. Wasn't that impressive? Yes. There's very few places in this world that you can go that people will sing that. There's very few places in this world that you're allowed to pray. Yet everybody says they pray. Everybody says we need prayer in the Middle East. We need prayers. We need prayers for Lahaina, Maui. We need prayers for California. They preach it, but they don't do it. Because in God's name, if two or more of us are gathered in His name, He answers our prayers. So I ask that you bow your heads for a moment, please. Heavenly Father, just thank you for bringing this group of people here. Thank you for the awardees. They've done so much goodness in this world. Give them grace and give them glory. For the men and women that have died in all the wars, give their families comfort, because I know you're comforting them. And their glory is with you in heaven. For the men and women that are on active duty right now, thank you for them, Lord. Protect them with everything you have, with that strong sword and that shield, that they may do what is good for this world. For the men and women of law enforcement, our fire, our police, our teachers, bless them, Lord. And to the hands that picked our food, that made our food, that served our food, please, Lord, bless them and their families and let them continue on doing greatness for this world. And please, for the men and women here today, thank you, thank you, thank you, because that's all I can say for another day in your glory is thank you. And we all said, amen. Amen. Thank you, everybody. Wait a minute. That was a week. I'm Catholic. I got rosary beads. Stronger amen than that, folks. And we all said, amen. Thank you.
All right, please have a seat. All right, don't start talking yet. This event's going, man. That was our second audience participation piece. So now you can see why we have a special club called the FOB. That's the friend of Bruce. If you're not a member yet, I guarantee you will be by the end of this evening. So here's the deal. This evening will be fast-paced. You're going to have to continue enjoying your meal and beverages throughout the event. You need to get up and get a drink. Go get a drink. Don't feel, I'm letting all the MCs know. If somebody gets up to get a beer or wine, they have to get it. If you need to use the head, or for landlubbers like me, the restrooms, please don't let the program stop you. The women's is on the port side, which is the water side. If you head just forward behind me, you'll find the women's, and the men's will be on the starboard side. Tonight's meal is prepared by Jay Tranny's, an award-winning chef, Dustin Tranny. Jay Tranny's is an iconic San Pedro restaurant operated by the same family for 98 years since the founding of their first restaurant. And trust me, you will never get as good a swordfish as you get from them tonight. Wine for tonight's event has been generously provided by Europa Village Wineries and Resort. In January every year, our awards committee assembles the plan for the year's Freedom of the Seas Awards. Awardees are nominated and selected, logistics are planned, and sponsors are asked. Shortly thereafter, Battleship Iowa volunteer and renowned artist Ben Jackal begins hand sculpting each award, making the award truly unique to only this event. Ben is here this evening with his wife, Nina. The passion demonstrated by volunteers and staff for this event is extraordinary, and many of them, it's a full-time job in its own right. Please stand if you're a member of our awards committee or a crew member that participated in planning and execution of this weekend's event to be recognized. Tonight's awards dinner has been underwritten by numerous sponsors who support our organization's mission to inspire, connect, and celebrate our brave men and women that safeguard freedom of the seas for our world's benefit. Special recognition to those that have gone above and beyond supporting tonight's event and the numerous programs of our organization, including Marathon Petroleum, Lockheed Martin. Look, I think we got a competition going, another audience participation event. UPS. Surface Navy Association. Fincantieri Marinette Marine. Collier Walsh Nakazawa. Tanya Acker and Randy Douthit. The Port of Los Angeles. I know you guys are out there. Temkin Philadelphia Gare. Phillips 66. And Raytheon Technologies. There we go. That's what I'm talking about. That's the tempo tonight. Let's keep it going. Everybody present tonight is a VIP. And looking at the list, I could easily announce over 100 people. But there are a couple of people that I'd like to specifically recognize, which many of them are friends of Bruce. But let me start out with that. Retired Admiral Phil Davidson. Seriously, let's hold our applause. Phil definitely deserves applause, but I've got about 35 of them here. Retired Vice Admirals Roden and Rondeau, Rear Admiral McLean with U.S. 3rd Fleet, Rear Admiral Nowakowski, Vice Commander, U.S. Naval Forces, U.S. Central Command, 5th Fleet, retired Rear Admirals Harris, Shatinsky, Wilson, Adams, and Steindl. I just merged you all into one. Seal Beach Navy Weapons Station Commanding Officer Captain O'Brien, California State Treasurer Fiona Ma, retired LA County Supervisor Mike Antonovich, City of Los Angeles Council Member for District 1-5, Tim McCosker, Long Beach Vice Mayor Cindy Allen, City of Carson Council Member Arlene Rojas, Port of Los Angeles Commissioner Lee Williams, representatives from the consuls of Switzerland and Senegal, as well as representatives from the Taipei Economic and Cultural Affairs Office, Mark Fuentes from Assemblymember Mike Gibson's office, Port of Los Angeles Deputy Police Chief Randy Allen, LAPD Harbor Area Captain McGuire, CEO of Fincantieri Marine Group Marco Galbiotti. I'm sure I messed it up. I am very sorry, Marco. Executive Vice President of Lockheed Martin, Stephanie C. Hill. And I know this guy, this particular name means a lot because his grandfather was a crew member on this ship for 22 days. H. Delano Roosevelt, grandson of President Franklin Delano Roosevelt, is here tonight too. I'm really sorry if I missed anyone, but it is what it is. Lastly but not least, we have several members of our board here tonight and our museum ambassadors present. Please give them a round of applause for their support as well. All right, slides team. On June 9th of 2012, the Battleship Iowa pulled into the Port of Los Angeles after years of building community support, a tedious application process with the United States Navy to donate the ship in the generosity of the state of Iowa. We've accomplished a lot over the past 11 years, establishing ourselves as a community destination. We've changed the lives of millions of people, including thousands of passionate volunteers that have found a hub of connection, boosting their health, well-being, and skills, leading to a happier, more prosperous life. Every year, we've ignited curiosity in more than 20,000 kids, with many of them stepping aboard a ship and seeing the water for the very first time. Many of them are participating in STEM activities. These experiences have been made possible in large part due to scholarships and the generosity of numerous sponsors, including some that are here tonight, such as Marathon Petroleum, Kenneth and Eileen Norris Foundation, Crail Johnson Foundation, and the Port of Los Angeles. We support thousands of veterans annually, with more than 7,500 of them receiving direct services from a team based aboard this ship and serving LA County Supervisor District 4 and 2. Several supporters have assisted with funding veterans programs, including Phillips 66 and Temkin Foundation in LA County. Thanks to the leadership of the city and Port of Los Angeles, we have worked together in LA Fleet Week since 2016 to activate the LA waterfront, transforming communities and changing perceptions. Millions of impressions annually are on San Pedro, generating significant economic impact and national attention. Special recognition to those present tonight from Navy Region Southwest, Los Angeles 1-5 Council Member Tim McCosker, the teams from the Port of Los Angeles and Port of Los Angeles Police, LAPD, the LA Emergency Management Department, and our friends with Discovery San Pedro and San Pedro Chamber of Commerce that make this event happen. As a community platform, we've supported hundreds of local organizations with event space like you're in tonight and ticket donations to help them fundraise and connect services with the community. Our efforts have resulted in approximately $11.5 million in economic impact and sustained over 280 jobs every single year. But little known is our role in supporting the community in the face of disaster, such as being the continuity and facilitator for the use of military assets in response or providing a no-cost space for COVID testing, or being a training site that builds and refines the skills of our first responders. And we accomplished all of this as a standalone destination, far from major attractions in the area, and have become the number 4 out of 796 things to do in Los Angeles. Our next evolution will be our greatest yet as we embark on a multi-phase campaign for freedom of the seas to build the National Museum of the Surface Navy.
Our way of life depends on the 50,000 ships and 850,000 miles of undersea cables that carry our goods and internet traffic at any given moment. Without free and open access to the world's waterways, the world as we know it grinds to a halt. The U.S. Navy has been committed to protecting the seas for 2.5 centuries. I've dedicated 37 years of my life serving in uniform in America's Surface Navy on this mission. Now I've learned that most Americans are unaware of our Navy's legacy. That's where the campaign for freedom of the seas to build the National Museum of the Surface Navy comes in.
In just 11 years, Battleship Iowa has become the hub of the LA waterfront community and the number 4 museum in the greater Los Angeles area. We've proven ourselves locally. The time is now to launch ourselves nationally. As an icon of the Surface Navy, the Battleship Iowa is the ideal home for its National Museum, a dynamic experience that reaches past artifacts and touches lives. You can be part of that journey as we continue to enrich our legacy now and for generations to come. We need your help. Join our team, spread the news, change a life. Support the campaign for freedom of the seas to build the National Museum of the Surface Navy.
All right, what do you think? We're doing a survey now. That was the first time anybody has seen that video. All right, good. In 2025, with your support, we will open Phase 1, the National Museum of the Surface Navy Core Experience. Working together with award-winning attraction designers, 2 of which are here this evening, we will open the next generation immersive experience aboard the Iowa. The experience includes an opening and closing experience, multiple showcases, and a first-person thread for the visitor to immerse themselves in. The expansion is expected to inspire curiosity among more than double the number of people that currently visit the battleship. In Phase 2, we plan to locate to anchor the south end of the new West Harbor waterfront development, approximately 1 mile from here. We're currently working with the community, LA Council Member McCosker, the Port of Los Angeles, and the developers to prioritize this location. Once approval occurs, design, environmental dredging, and construction will begin. This relocation is expected to supercharge the LA waterfront as a destination, significantly increasing the overall economic impact through unification. In Phase 3, we will expand the exploration experience at the National Museum of the Surface Navy with a connecting spine, new showcases, and additional immersive threads that connect our nation and continue to pioneer the storytelling experience amongst museums. In Phase 4, we will build a park and pavilion, including memorials, shoreside displays, family activities, and gathering areas, and a significant expansion of space to boost capacity of our youth programs, veteran services, and community connection. In phase 5, we will do a deep dive expansion of the National Museum of the Surface Navy to round out our suite of impactful immersive experiences, firmly placing us on the mantle of the future of museums, which, by the way, I'll probably be ready to retire about that point. Now I invite you on a journey as we recognize the contributions of extraordinary people in safeguarding freedom of the seas to promote peace and prosperity now and for generations to come. So please join me in welcoming one of our hosts for this evening, National Museum of the Surface Navy, Chairman of the Board, retired Rear Admiral Mike Shatinsky. He's also a 37-year veteran of the Surface Navy. Mike.
I'm going to bring us down a little bit and start with a tradition that we have in our military in any formal occasion. We want to always take a moment not just to pray, but also to remember those that aren't with us today. To my left, you can see a table. At military dinners and formal occasions like this, a table like this reminds us and allows us to honor those that have gone before us, like those sailors we lost during World War II during the Battle of Leyte Gulf. And rather than explain the table, because everything on that table has a significance, I'm going to ask you to talk to the veterans at your tables and ask them more about the traditions and the meanings over there. I mentioned the Battle of Leyte Gulf. Why do we celebrate the Battle of Leyte Gulf this Saturday every year? There's so many superlatives about that battle during World War II. It was a decisive battle that defeated the combined might of the Imperial Japanese Navy. It was the largest sea battle in history. It was the last sea battle where battleships crossed the T in the traditional way of fighting. But for me, it was the incredible heroism of the American sailors. It showed how American sailors fight when they're outnumbered, outgunned, and with their backs against the wall. The British Navy celebrates the Battle of Trafalgar with events like this every year. The Battle of Leyte Gulf wasn't America's Trafalgar, but I submit to you it was American Navy's Thermopylae. You've all seen the movie 300. That's what happened after the Battle off Samara, after the Battle of Leyte Gulf, and deserves to be honored and remembered. Without the sacrifice of 6 small destroyers facing 32 Japanese capital ships, battleships, cruisers, and others, General MacArthur would never have returned to the Philippines. It's that magnitude of a battle. We have something else extraordinary to celebrate this year. This year is the 75th anniversary of desegregation and integration in our military. And today I can proudly say that those serving in America's Surface Navy are the face of the nation. When I walk on board a ship, I can see the face of our nation there. All races, all colors, all creeds, and they're living that our mantra, shipmate self in our Navy. So much has happened in the past 75 years, but there's, of course, so much more to do. Desegregation is the opening of all opportunities in our military to our Black Americans, and integration was through act of Congress, the opening of opportunities to the women in our nation to serve in our military. And our Navy is truly extraordinary, and our country is truly extraordinary because of that diversity. Rather than me talk some more about this, we've prepared a special video. This is that will explain a bit more about desegregation and integration. So please roll it.
In 1948, America was a racially segregated society. Then, in July of that year, something unexpected happened. President Harry S. Truman took steps to end segregation of the U.S. Armed Forces and to integrate women into the U.S. military. It was the most progress on the civil rights front in nearly a century. During America's previous wars, African Americans and women served bravely, but were poorly treated as service members, often relegated to menial duties in segregated units. After the Second World War, civil rights leaders pushed to end segregation, and Truman began to understand the need to present a better U.S. image to the world as the Cold War began. The seeds of progress were planted when Congress passed and Truman signed the Women's Armed Services Integration Act, that, for the first time, allowed women to serve on active duty in the U.S. military. Previously, women were confined to auxiliary and support positions. A month later, Truman signed Executive Order 9980, desegregating the federal workforce, followed by Executive Order 9981, desegregating the armed forces. Truman chose to desegregate the military through an executive order because he could do it unilaterally. He didn't need the courts, and he didn't need Congress. Congress's act and Truman's executive orders began the gradual transformation of U.S. society and ultimately led to decades of historic milestones towards a unified America. General Colin Powell, who was America's first black Secretary of State, said, "Truman's action in 1948 made the U.S. military the one place where the only thing that counted was courage, where the color of your guts and the color of your blood was more important than the color of your skin."
Well, now I'm pleased to introduce an inspiring woman that followed that trail to be with us here tonight. Joanne Ortloff I'm honored to have her serving on our board of directors. Joanne retired after 33 years of service as a Fleet Master Chief, culminating her career in 2015 as the highest ranking female enlistee in our Navy. She's been recognized with numerous medals and awards, including the Captain Joy Bright Hancock Leadership Award, the Legion of Merit, and the Secretary of Defense Award for Exceptional Service. And in retirement, she continues to break barriers and support our military and various volunteer organizations. And I love this. This is extraordinary. In 2018, she created and initiated, I'm not sure that's the right word. She created Green Toy Plastic Army Women. And if you go online today, you can purchase a bag of Army Women on Amazon for a plug. Please welcome Fleet Master Chief Joanne Ortloff, retired.
Well, shoot fire. I will say I inspired it and worked with the toy company to develop the plastic Army Women because we didn't have any, and while the male ones were pink, I'm not a pink male soldier. So with that, good evening, everyone, and I wish you could see from up here this beautiful scene of everyone in your best. It's a highlight of my evening to see everyone all gussied up here on this battleship where underway this would never happen. But tonight we celebrate our freedom of the seas aboard this mighty battleship where we share her courageous history and her ideals. And even if for only one evening as you walk on her decks and you feel the steel that supports her structure and you gaze upon her impressive guns and mine and you take in the maze of her many passageways, you too now are a part of her valued future. While the USS Iowa no longer sails, she still turns to. And as a reminder to everyone who visits here, that our Navy continues to project that power presence across the globe, securing the safety of our sea lanes, below them, on them, and beyond. Tonight, we recognize just a few of the incredible individuals and organizations as award recipients who have gone above and beyond in their action of support. We are also privileged to hear from professionals who are and have been on the front lines of our military's critical engagements. But first, we're going to recognize the youth and our future of our Navy, and our military, and our country. It is now my pleasure to introduce Ms. Tanya Acker, our Awards Committee Chair. Tanya has a varied and successful career, and many of you may recognize her from her Amazon show, Tribunal. She is also the host of the Tanya Acker Show podcast and the author of Make Your Case, Finding Your Win in Civil Court. Tanya, I may need to see you after this a little later. She is an experienced civil litigator, so everybody stay on her good side tonight. She also serves on the board of the National Museum of Surface Navy, the Western Justice Center, the BSA, the PacWest Band Corp, and a myriad of other organizations. In addition, she is a member of the Beverly Hills West chapter of the Lynx, Inc., the Yale Law School Executive Committee, the Yale Law School Fund Board. Oh my gosh, Tanya, I'm out of breath already. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Ms. Tanya Acker.
Thank you. First, thank you to all of you who are serving, who have served, who will serve, like my young friend Jonas over there, who wants more than anything to be in the Navy. Some kids want to be influencers. He wants to go to Annapolis. So to all of you, I thank you. I include my father in that thanks. We would not be here but for the commitment of our men and women who choose to go to battle for this country, even in peacetime. So thank you so much. Thank you. I appreciate you. I also just have to take a minute because I think that we live in a moment where we are so regularly reminded about how divided we are, about how dysfunctional we are. And I don't think that's the true story of America. And I don't think that's the true story of an American community. I think that on this ship, with this history that we celebrate and this history that we are building, this is an American community that we should celebrate. So let's celebrate ourselves. It has, for I think about the last 9 years, been my honor and privilege to be a part of this community, to celebrate, to be a part of the celebration of an American hero who made a big impact here on this ship. Vice Admiral Gravely, of course, before he became the first African-American to command a Navy battleship, before he became the first African-American to become a fleet commander, he served right here on this ship as communications officer. We annually take an opportunity to recognize him, to celebrate him, and to celebrate those who follow in his footsteps. Because just as, I have to tell my Robert Small story. I know you guys have been here, you've heard this before, but just as Vice Admiral Gravely followed in the footsteps of Robert Smalls, who was born enslaved, commandeered a Confederate battleship, sailed it past 7 Confederate battle lines. The ship, by the way, was the Planter, and it had been used to capture Fort Sumter, so it had really valuable war material. He delivered this ship to the Union Army. He served in both the South Carolina state legislature and in Congress. He bought his former master's house. So, hi. And following in his footsteps was Vice Admiral Gravely. Following in Vice Admiral Gravely's footsteps are a myriad of heroes who we've had the opportunity to celebrate on this ship. We will continue to celebrate them. And we have one to celebrate right now tonight. I am going to say less and I'm going to ask you to direct your attention to the video. The Vice Admiral Samuel L. Gravely Jr. Award was named in honor of the first African American in the United States Navy to command a Navy ship, to command a fleet, and to become a flag officer. The award recognizes leaders who exemplify Vice Admiral Gravely's trailblazing leadership and his commitment to service. The 2023 Vice Admiral Samuel L. Gravely Jr. Award winner is Stephanie Hill, Executive Vice President of Rotary and Mission Systems for Lockheed Martin Corporation. She oversees a $17 billion enterprise employing 35,000 people, an enterprise which is also responsible for enabling key aspects of our national defense.
I have had the honor of working with the Navy over my 36 years on supporting so many different missions for more than 3 decades. When I think about Admiral Gravely, one of the things that spoke so much to me as I began doing a lot of research on his background, even outside of the Navy, there were so many parallels with my father. But what Daddy taught me and my sisters was that even if you're the first, it's your responsibility to work as hard as you can to make sure many, many, many more follow you and many, many more achieve as much or more than you. And Daddy taught us that it's not enough just to be. You have to act, and you have to act with purpose. The most important job of a leader is to create an environment where it's possible for everyone on your team to succeed, to reach their potential, and one where your mission requirements are met every single time. And I think those two things are linked. One of the things that I'm most proud of is Lockheed Martin's commitment to establishing what we call business resource groups. There are all kinds of business resource groups. What they do is they help to be able to develop personally and professionally people from all over, no matter what your background is. It creates an environment where there is opportunity, where people can ask for things to be done just a little bit differently, and we can rise to the occasion to make it different and to make sure that we have a culture and an environment where everybody believes they belong and can achieve their potential. When each of us commits to following Admiral Gravely's courageous example, together, I think we can achieve the promise of America.
Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming to the stage retired Rear Admiral Sinclair Harris, last year's Gravely Award winner.
Well, good evening, everyone. Last night I had a chance to share a little bit about one of my heroes, my main hero, my mother, who served in the Women's Army Corps because of the Integration Act. And then she went and served in the United States Postal Service for 31 years because of that executive order. But aside from doing those things, Stephanie, Ms. Hill, she wrote many poems. And she wrote this one for you. It's called A Woman's Place, and it was delivered at the Air Force Association Women of Distinction Awards in 1997. We were told you can only touch the lower star. It is unladylike to reach too far because a female is all you are. You can learn to cook, maybe even write a book, but never try to enter a man's space. Yours is a woman's place, a woman's place. Well, we kept looking up and saw the stars in the sky and began to question why we had to reach low while our brothers reached high. We had proved we had working brains, were smart and eager to train, and had demonstrated to doubters' chagrin our intelligence over and over and over again. Then it started. Women dared touch the forbidden star by flying a plane or passing the bar or sailing a ship or earning a star. Any jobs were there for the taking, teaching, preaching, and cake making. No star was improper for them to touch. No task chosen was too much. It has come to this. The results you see left and right distinguish women who have fought the fight, so no younger woman will have to face the restrictions that go with a woman's place. This was written for you. This was written for you. Now, you can read her bio in the fancy booklet that you got on your table. You can go online and read even more. There are 3 takeaways that I got about Stephanie C. Hill. And sisters, y'all can correct me if I got this wrong. She is a devoted person. She is devoted to a stronger and better America. A stronger and better America that brings everybody up and everybody on board. She's done it working at Lockheed Martin. She's done it in her philanthropic work. She's done it in her mentoring and coaching and her leading of others. She's devoted. She is devoted to building up others through her leadership in diversity, inclusion, and belonging. She's devoted to that. And she is devoted to her family. Cole, Cameron, can I say that she's devoted to her family? And I know that she's a homework mom, which means something to y'all. I can say, Stephanie, from reading and knowing you a little bit and learning more about you, that you have kept to your mother and father's guidance. You've stayed true to yourself. You've treated others well. And you've worked hard. And like your father taught you, you're not leaving those 5 points. When she would get a 95, I never got a 90 nothing on any of the score. When she would get a 95, her father would say, what happened to the other 5 points? You haven't left any of those points on there. So it was great pride, great humility that I congratulate you and award you this year's Vice Admiral Samuel L. Gravely Award. This is the official one here. Okay. Oh, there she is. Thank you. I'm going to put it on the table.
Thank you so much. What a beautiful poem, and what a remarkable woman your mother was. I enjoyed so much learning about her. And you know, what he said is right. Our parents, my family's here, our parents taught us that you could do absolutely anything you wanted to do as long as you were willing to work hard and treat people well. And they were very clear about that last part. So I have to tell you, I am deeply honored to be here with all of you on the fantail of this magnificent ship in the presence of so many distinguished guests and remarkable awardees. Tonight, as we marvel at the profound impact this ship has had on our nation and Navy, I'm grateful to know that its legacy will continue for decades to come, thanks to the purpose and vision of the National Museum of the Surface Navy, under the leadership of Chairman Admiral Mike Shatinsky and President and CEO Jonathan Williams, and, as they've said, the support of their amazing team of volunteers. Let's give them a big round of applause. Now, I have to tell you, I had an Admiral Mike tour of this magnificent ship. And if you haven't had an Admiral Mike tour, I'd say you should get one. Thank you so much for that. It was really amazing. It's truly been a privilege to be here in San Pedro this weekend for this wonderful Freedom of the Seas celebration, to see some old friends that I haven't seen for quite a while and to meet some new ones, to receive the incredible hospitality of the entire National Museum of the Surface Navy family, to experience it all with my family by my side. It has just made it an unforgettable experience. And it is an incredible honor to be recognized with the Vice Admiral Samuel L. Gravely Leadership Award. It's especially meaningful this year as we recognize the 75th anniversary of the desegregation and integration of the U.S. Armed Forces. I am immensely moved. I've felt the influence of Admiral Gravely in every moment this weekend. I see it among all of you in this room, those who wore the uniform and those who wear the uniform. And I feel it in my heart as I consider how far we've come to get where we are today. We are all continuing on the journey Admiral Gravely started, that he paved by being the first. I never had the privilege of knowing Admiral Gravely, but I do feel connected to him in a few ways. First, one of my colleagues and friends, Tom Roden, Admiral Tom Roden, who's here tonight, his father worked directly for Admiral Gravely, and he shared with me that when he commanded Third Fleet, he reflected upon stories of Admiral Gravely's absolute devotion to the sailors who served under his command. And those are the kinds of sentiments we've heard all weekend, or I've heard all weekend about Admiral Gravely. And an even deeper connection for me, as you heard me reference in the video, is that Admiral Gravely reminds me a great deal of my father. In fact, they were fraternity brothers. Yes, both were members of the Alpha Phi Alpha fraternity, the first intercollegiate fraternity for African American men. And like Admiral Gravely, Daddy knew what it meant to be first. Daddy was the first black state senator of Maryland and the first black judge of the Maryland Court of Appeals, Maryland's highest court. And like Admiral Gravely, many other firsts. And over the years, I've given a lot of thought to what it must have meant to my father to be first. He and our mother taught my two sisters and me that we should always do our part to help those that we are privileged to have in our lives in whatever way that we can. For Daddy, being first meant that it was your responsibility to ensure you weren't the last and that many others would follow in your footsteps and surpass you. And so I believe I can understand the kind of commitment Admiral Gravely had for the mission that he set for. I can sense the tenacity and the love he had for people he would never meet. And I know that he inspired others to make a difference because I've seen it this weekend. And I lived with that example in my home every day. And yet I can't imagine the pressure Admiral Gravely must have felt as the first of so many things in the Navy. When serving in a position like his, there was no margin for error, but he led the way with grace, humility, and forethought for those who would come after him, for all of us. My father and Admiral Gravely had other similar experiences as they both faced racial discrimination in their careers. As a new recruit in the Navy, Admiral Gravely was trained in a segregated unit. As a naval officer, he was prohibited from living in the officers' quarters. And in 1945, when his first ship reached its mooring in Key West, Florida, Admiral Gravely was specifically barred from entering the officers' club on the base. Sadly, stories like these are familiar to me and my sisters. As a black Army officer, my father was also kept out of the officers' club. Daddy would share with us how when he was denied entry into the officers' club, the soldiers under his command wanted to fight for his right to enter. But he told them, "We're not going to fight today. We're going to move on." He knew that as an officer, he had choices, but the men under his leadership did not. That time in our history was a dark one for African Americans, and yet people like Admiral Gravely and my daddy stood up and fought for what was right for their whole lives. They dared to live by their convictions, and they had the courage to lead when others did not. And that is why I am so deeply honored to receive this award named for Admiral Gravely. He never let the treatment he received impact the way he treated others. And because of these principles, he was deeply respected by those he led. One of my favorite stories about Admiral Gravely that illustrates this is the Six Bells story. Some of you, I'm sure, have heard it. But I want to give you a little bit of background for probably most of us who haven't. Paul Stilwell, who co-authored the book Trailblazer with Admiral Gravely about his incredible life, tells about the time when then Captain Gravely was returning to his ship, the USS Duet, and heard his crew ring 6 bells. Stilwell described that then Captain Gravely thought the 6 bells had to have been a mistake. As a captain, the protocol was to have only 4 bells ring as the commander approached the ship. But what he didn't know yet in that moment was that he was no longer Captain Gravely, but now Rear Admiral Gravely, as his crew greeted him aboard the ship. The ringing of 6 bells by his crew to welcome their admiral aboard his ship was the ultimate sign of respect. And that was how Admiral Gravely learned that he had achieved what no black man had ever achieved before by becoming the U.S. Navy's first African-American flag officer. Yes. I love that story because it exemplifies the quiet confidence and humility of Admiral Gravely and the deference the sailors who served under his command gave to him. And tonight, as we reflect upon Admiral Gravely's contributions and achievements and the path he set for all of us, I hope that you are as inspired as I am to do even more for our nation. When I consider the promise of America, I deeply believe that every one of us deserves the opportunity to have joy, achieve our potential, and make a positive difference in the world. And certainly as we celebrate 75 years of desegregation and integration of the U.S. Armed Forces and look at the significant progress of the world, we know that we have come a long way since the days of Admiral Gravely and my father. But we also know that we are still on that journey. And when I think about the character, commitment, and example of Admiral Gravely, it is a true inspiration to me to ensure that I am doing my part to continue to make progress on that journey. And I hope that Admiral Gravely's life inspires us all to commit, to recommit, and redouble our efforts in our sphere of influence to follow his courageous example, even if our sphere of influence is a small slice of the world. I am convinced that when each of us does our part to honor Admiral Gravely's legacy, together we will achieve the real promise of America. Thank you so much for this award. I will treasure it always.
Let's please give another round of applause to Stephanie Hill. Wasn't that a great speech? It's such a thrill to be a part of this ceremony because I get to engage with these living American heroes, which is a great honor and a privilege on this ship. And another honor and privilege is to ensure that we are equipping the next generation of leaders with knowledge of the history from whence they come. And to that end, this ship and this museum, we are interactive. We're not simply a place where people can come look at things. We are a place where people, families, and young people come and experience things. And every year, for the last 9 years, we have sponsored an essay contest, the Vice Admiral Gravely Essay Contest, where we award thousands of dollars in scholarships to deserving young students who write incredible essays about the Vice Admiral. Side note, we are able to do that because of the support, the continued support, the increasing support that we get from all of you. So first, give yourselves all a round of applause for helping to support this next generation of students. And now, just to give you a little sense of what the Scholarship Award means to some of our students, I'm going to once again ask you to direct your attention to the screen. Thank you.
My name is Gift Okeze, and I won the Gravely Scholarship Essay in October of 2022.
My name is Chloe Fong, and I won the Gravely Scholarship in the fall of 2022.
My name is Darren Vinoya, and I won the Gravely Essay Scholarship last year in 2022.
I found out about this contest from my junior year high school teacher. His name is Mr. Grovin. Every year, he gives his students the opportunity to be able to enter into this contest.
I heard about this scholarship and participated through my 11th grade history teacher. I was in an A-push class at the time, and he really pushed the entire class to research the scholarship and take part in it because he knew it would be a great opportunity for all of us.
I would like to say thank you to my 11th grade history teacher, Mr. Brandon Grovin, and the whole of HTPA for introducing me to this scholarship.
I'll be starting school at University of California, Irvine next week, Thursday. At UC Irvine, I plan to study cognitive science.
I'm currently attending Simon Fraser University in Canada. I was originally born there, and after living out in San Pedro, I moved back there after 10 years.
I'm currently attending the University of California State University, Long Beach. Right now, I'm studying animation.
Gravely Scholarship Essay Prize has helped me to put my foot into college. From the college applications, it came with its own expenses, in addition to housing contracts and also having a parking permit. Those are additional expenses that not even tying to my tuition that this prize has been able to fund for me to be able to put my foot into college.
I used the scholarship money that I won from the Gravely Scholarship for my textbooks in university. I'm in my first year now, so I've been spending it on textbooks and course classes.
Winning the scholarship is important to me because it allows me to help pay for the fees that are expected of when attending college, and so far they've been helping me out greatly.
Something I learned from Samuel Gravely is his determination and motivation. I was able to connect to that in my life because from a young age I've been very determined with whatever goal and whatever I set my mind on. I saw that perseverance and determination in him towards his passion in going further in his career, getting to the next level and not backing down when there was negative sides coming from which way. Anyway, he was always pushing forward to reaching to his goals. So that's something I definitely learned.
What I learned about Vice Admiral Gravely that really influenced me was his perseverance in education and teaching. Along those lines, it furthered my interest in going to university and my studies, and it really motivated me to keep going on.
Learning about Vice Admiral Gravely taught me the important skill of perseverance. Vice Admiral, when I read his autobiography in order to write the essay, I remember how Vice Admiral Gravely persevered in order to become the person who he was, and that just learning about how he persevered through the hard times, despite all the odds stacked against him. It inspired me to also persevere when hard times hit and they stay there for a long time.
I just really want to thank the scholarship and the opportunity that they gave me. It was a great ceremony, and the organization is really well put together in memory of Vice Admiral Gravely.
I want to thank Vice Admiral Gravely Essay Scholarship Contest Association for hosting this contest and helping me and my fellow peers further our studies in order to achieve our goals.
If you're interested in applying into this essay, don't be afraid. Give it a shot. Give it your best. You never know, you could be the next one winning this prize.
Students, incredible. We have an extraordinary scholarship committee, a team of folks who reads these essays. I am now going to introduce to you the eagle-eyed, incredible, extraordinary, dedicated Dr. Barbara Shannon, who heads our scholarship committee. And please, Dr. Shannon, come to the stage. Please join me in welcoming this incredible educator.
Thank you, Tana. You'll have to excuse me, but I've been in education over 50 years, just retired last year, and every time I hear young people speak, I cry. And to listen to them and their testimony tonight was just really made me feel well. It really did. So, I'm Dr. Barbara Shannon. I'm the co-founder of two schools, Synergy Kinetic and Synergy Quantum Academies, and a member of the Vice Admiral Samuel L. Gravely Essay Contest Committee. I would like to thank Jonathan Williams, President, CEO of the Surface Navy Museum at the Battleship IOWA, all the members of the board, and the teachers for their support of the essay contest since its inception. So I want to tell you just a little bit of history about it. In 2014, I was invited to the USS Iowa for my first Vice Admiral Gravely Leadership Award program. There I met Jane Johnson, who is here tonight, who asked me to join the host committee. Now, the responsibility of the host committee was all the logistics of the award program, and I felt like a fish out of water. I can navigate students, but navigate everything else was a little bit different for me. The award program was first held on Martin Luther King Jr. Day, and then it was moved to February during Black History Month. At our December meeting, the topic arose about how to develop a way to reach out to schools to get students and their families to visit the USS Iowa and learn about her rich history. So I suggested an essay contest for juniors in U.S. history, because in U.S. history is usually when they learn about First and Second World War, so it made sense to me. After some discussion, the committee decided the topic should be about Vice Admiral Gravely and his 3 pillars for success, as some of the students mentioned on the video, which are education, motivation, and perseverance. Students would learn about a person of color who had opened the doors for many, and at the same time about the USS Iowa, since one of Vice Admiral Gravely's first tour of duty at sea was as a junior officer aboard the USS Iowa in 1952. So we announced the contest in January of 2016. At that time, we didn't have a lot of money, so our first winner received $250 educational grant. Now, to me, any money you get toward education is great. That would buy some notebooks, pencils, papers, things like that. So we were really happy about that. We didn't get as many essays as we had wanted, but we decided to try it again. There were 5 members on the essay committee at the time. We read the few essays, and we decided we were going to move forward, and again, thanks to everybody who continued to support us after that first year. Over the years, our essay numbers grew, and we added more readers and more scholarships. I would like to extend thanks to Leonard Jabian and Rosa Inga for joining Tiffany Ellerbeck and me this year as readers. A very special shout out to Tiffany, who made the task more manageable by first reviewing the essays and then being responsible for the meeting to keep us all on track, because some of us would want to get off track. This year, thanks to generous donors, we will award 7 scholarships. So at this time, I would like to invite Mr. Joe Walsh and Ms. Stephanie Hill to the stage.
Good evening, everybody. Bruce, I got the same note from Mike. And they were worried because, a lawyer didn't have a script. They were worried how long this might take. But I have to be honest with you, I'm absolutely speechless. I've been fortunate enough to be honored and privileged, and quite frankly, had just a good fortune and blessing to be just a small part of this event for the last couple of years. And to hear stories like Stephanie and to hear it over and over again about Admiral Gravely, I'm probably the least person worthy of being up here, including our students. So I'm going to knock this off and before I get a little emotional, but I just wanted to say on behalf of my partners, my associates, and all my colleagues at Collier Walsh Nakazawa, we're absolutely thrilled, honored, and it is our good fortune to be able to present these awards, and we thank you, and we thank the students, so thank you.
So as I mentioned, when we started our first year with $250, which to some of us, as old as we are, that was a lot of money, right? Okay. We now, our top winner, who I'll be calling the students up in a minute, now receives a scholarship of $2,000. And again, we couldn't do it without the generous donations of you all. When we started this here 3 years ago, I felt like being in church when, my dad as a deacon used to hand out the offering basket, but we didn't need to do that because people just volunteered money. So I'm hoping you do the same thing tonight. At this time, I'd like for the scholarship recipients to come up. Our first scholarship winner, Alicela Hernandez, $2,000 scholarship. Our second scholarship, worth $1,500, go to Nikel Tan and Matea Maharis. Our third group of $1,000 go to Kanan Nuno and Sofia Hernandez. Our final recipients of $500 goes to Jules Elvin Andrade and Carlos Silva. And I'm so impressed by the students. The essays get better and better every year and harder to choose. And again, thanks to Tiffany, she keeps us on task when we have to decide. It's kind of hard when you have a couple hundred and you have to get it down to this number. So thank you again, and thank all of you for your donations. Thank you all very much. Well, I wish I was able to enter that and write an essay, because I could sure use $500 right now. But I'm just saying. Thank you so much for introducing those wonderful scholarship award winners. And on that note, up next, where are we? That's what I get for letting somebody else touch our binder. The Navy has proudly provided humanitarian assistance and disaster relief on every continent across the 7 seas. From volcano eruptions and earthquakes to flooding and tsunamis, who spelled this? To missions of care from USNS Mercy and USNS Comfort and other Navy ships.
And while the Navy has a solid history of humanitarian assistance, our civilian and business professionals are just as dedicated. Tonight, we honor a great contributor to this cause who has committed to the solutions for the homeless and housing crisis, expanding access to health care facilities, and leading initiatives to create a stronger California. Please join me in watching this short tribute.
The Humanitarian Service Award recognizes leaders who are committed to serving the American communities that lay at the foundation of our great nation and that are the threads that hold it together. The 2023 Humanitarian Service Award winner is Fiona Ma, California's 34th state treasurer.
I have spent the past 20 years in public service, helping my local community, helping the state at the assembly level, helping taxpayers as a tax collector, and now as the state's banker. I have always tried to be of assistance, to try to level the playing field, and to try to be that voice for the community that doesn't have a voice. So now, as the state treasurer, I oversee 16 boards and commissions that funds and finances affordable housing, schools, hospitals, children's hospitals, public transportation, green energy, garbage and recycling. And top of mind is always to make sure that we are looking after everyone in the state, especially those that need our help the most. I had the opportunity to fly with a COD onto the USS Abraham Lincoln. And I was just amazed at the small city, the amount of people that were on the USS Abraham Lincoln, the important duties that these young people are entrusted with. I earned my first trap, and I'm very proud of that. And that was one of the highlights of my last 20 years in elected office. JROTC has been in our San Francisco high schools, 6 of our San Francisco high schools for over 100 years. I fight to keep JROTC in our schools, and I know the young people really benefit from it, the alumni, the parents, and so I hope that that program continues in San Francisco. My parents came as immigrants to this country seeking the American dream, and I think many of us, whether you've been here 1 generation or 5 generations, all of our ancestors came here for the American dream.
I would like to ask Bruce Double D McCrae, I promise you I'd do the Double D, to join me on stage to introduce our award winner.
Thank you. You're doing a great job. See, when you hug somebody, they clap for you, so that's why I did it. Congratulations again. You are so deserving. And it really is a blessing to have you here. So thank you for being here, too. I appreciate it. So Fiona Ma, she looks at me and she says, you better go off the cuff, because I have 4 pages there. I was going to read it. I thought it was very, very cool. But she says, no, you won't. I says, yes, ma'am. No, I won't. From a supervisor in San Francisco that tried to take the USS Iowa away from Long Beach and San Pedro, she worked diligently to keep it there, and we won. Where's Jonathan? We won. But from supervisor who changed the world in San Francisco for the better, don't know what's going on there now, and I'll just leave it at that. I won't get political. To an assemblywoman, thank you. To an assemblywoman that truly passed over 60 bills. You had over 60 bills signed by 2 different governors and in leadership roles. To the treasurer of the state of California, and she won that seat by more votes than any other treasurer that ran. She is she's just not my friend. She's just not my treasurer. I am her minister. I'm going to say that. I'm not a minister. I'm an officiant, and I married her and her husband. So that's where I like to pray. But she has been a dear friend of mine. and a dear friend of all of ours. Remember, we received over $6 million from the state of California. Kind of goes through her office. And that's what we did last year here for the USS Iowa. So I'm not going to talk any longer. He told me 3 minutes. That's all I got. Ladies and gentlemen, my friend, Fiona Maw.
Thank you, Double D. Who is a friend of Bruce? I just want to thank Double D, Bruce McCrae, for nominating me for this award. Like he said, he performed my wedding. And we were kind of sitting here, you know, with my fiance at the time saying we're going to get married in about a year. And he goes, you know, I am a minister. $29. He pulled out his card and he goes, I want to perform your wedding. Like, what do you say to Bruce, you know? We're like, yes. And he did. And so he holds a special place in my heart. But, you know, I started as an accountant like your treasurer, Ross O'Brien, a CPA. Where's Ross? Let's give it up for Ross. He's keeping the books and the records. And I left the Big 8 accounting firm to start my own practice at the age of 27 years old. I became the president of a small business association, and that was the first time I had to interact with politicians. And I started to understand that these people are making important decisions about money, about policy. And as I was kind of getting to know the system, I started to think I could do a better job. How many of you think you could do a better job than your elected officials? Right? Okay, for all of you that have clapped, please run for office. We need you. We need you. It is so important. It is an honorable profession, but most people that, you know, are accountants, like if I said, Ross, give up, run for office, he'll be like, no, no, no. I have an important job to do, right? Lawyers, Stephanie, right? We need you because public service is about people. So I was going to go talk about all these things that I've done, but, you know, I only have 3 minutes. But I just want to talk about the USS Iowa. I did before Long Beach, I tried to bring the USS Iowa to San Francisco. And Anthony helped me. Jonathan Williams did help me, and we put up a good fight, but ultimately San Francisco is San Francisco. And I lost the vote, and at least the USS Iowa is here to this day. And I love the JROTC. It's been in our schools for over 100 years, and the school board continues to try to get rid of it. The voters put an initiative on the ballot with 55% of the vote to save and to keep JROTC in the schools, and the school board still refused to fund it. And so when I got into the assembly, I authored a bill, basically to keep JROTC in the schools. And the school board relented, but it is still a struggle. They still don't want to fund it. And, you know, these young people, the ones here at Fullerton High School, are doing such an amazing job. All the team leaders, they want the best for these young people. And I just am going to continue to support JROTC until I die. And then when I was in the legislature, I sponsored a bill 3 times to recognize the Filipino World War II veterans who served side by side by our men and women who had not been recognized. And now they are going to be recognized in the junior high and high school yearbooks curriculum so that the next generation can recognize that everybody that wants to serve, that does serve, should be recognized. Freedom is not free. And I thank everyone, all the men and women who have served, all the ones that are currently serving, because it is so, so important as we can see what's happening around the world. So thank you for this award. Thank you.
you all can turn around real quick, just so Bruce is, You're all gonna be in it.
Congratulations again. Well, something remarkable happened a couple of years ago, as mentioned about our essay and the Gravely Award winners, the essay winners. Michelle Howard, Admiral retired, had spoken up in the middle of the conclusion there and said she was pledging a donation, which spurred a domino effect at the evening and continued on after the evening. Well, this evening, not to be outdone by Michelle Howard, I have just been informed that Marathon Petroleum has offered a donation to the essay winners. And so, Tanya, you'll be receiving some more cash. And where is Marathon Petroleum? Thank you so much, Marathon Petroleum. And if anyone else out there would like to continue that domino effect, please let us know. We've got all night. All right, next. Next up, this Navy veteran currently hangs out on the Battleship Iowa a lot. Managing Veterans West, our veterans service arm, if you will, here on the battleship. Before joining our team, he spent 5 years in active duty as a deck seaman aboard the USS Ponce, a lead field training officer in the Bahrain Harbor Patrol Unit, and as NCO of Special Reaction Team Block JTF Guantanamo Bay. Following his time in the military, he spent 13 years figuring out who and how to be, and has spent the last 2 years helping develop the VPAN and now Veterans West. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Chris Erling.
Why don't you do that while we're serving?
Most of you probably don't know me, and I don't know most of you, I'm sure. But it is a great honor and privilege for me to be able to manage this department because of what it means to me and the trajectory that my life has taken since the Navy to be able to bring me here. And so I'd like to speak a little bit about the history of this ship and how it ties into the veteran experience. Because these magnificent ships are the monuments of the greatest generation that this country has known so far. And I really want to stress the so far. That really fits with the theme of the Gravely Award, the point of tonight, why we're all here, because it's not so much about what we've done in the past, but where we're going in the future. The courage and sacrifice of that generation, their magnanimous spirit that planted our stakes on the moral high ground and cemented our role in global affairs. And this ship in particular literally was America's big stick. It was the gold standard of our might and our ingenuity, of spanning 3 generations of service to our nation and our ideals. And we're gathered tonight to remember the primary mission that every United States ship that ever has been or currently is maintaining the freedom of the seas, free passage of goods and services, and free travel for people and citizens throughout the world. And it's that unique and critical mission of our Navy, more so than any other branch, that encapsulates the epitome of our magnanimity as America. That soft and hard power working in parallel channels to respond to crises and protect our way of life. That is what makes the United States Navy a global force for good. And that's why I'm very proud of my service in that institution. And so we've invited you all to help us celebrate the greatness we see in our invited honorees, the people that we're giving awards to, because their purpose, their passion exemplifies our spirit and our ideals. And the battleship fleet, if you don't know this, provides a really apt metaphor for our veteran population. It's frequently venerated and also quickly overlooked. This ship especially so. She was put into service with glitz and glam. 3 times she was rowed hard and put away wet. Her crew suffered a massive casualty that was more or less painted over, and then she was sent to the mothball fleet where things that we don't need anymore go to slowly die alone together. And yet, here she is, thriving and glistening and doing wonderful things in our community. Because there's something about this ship just won't give up. It won't stop continuing the mission. It won't stop forging forward. And all of us that are her crew have the privilege to assist in that effort. Military service, in my opinion, is a lot like improv. It's a bunch of yes and, thank you, sir. May I have another, right, And unfortunately, when we come home, accessing services and connecting to the things that we need to be able to thrive in our lives after the military is a lot of maybe but. There are always strings. It's a lot, most resources, you get in touch with them by calling 1-800, nobody cares, and maybe you can wait on hold, and maybe there's a message, but the mailbox is full, so goodbye. A sadder truth is that even for the service providers who jump through hoops to be able to provide resources for veterans and help us integrate and help us thrive, they can't stick the landing until the vet that they're working with is able to open their own heart and their own mind to receive. We venerate the 47 sailors who died a really horrific death on this ship on April 19th, 1949. We talk very little about, or to, the 1,600 or so who didn't. The people who survived that tragedy and carry those deep and ragged scars through their life. We don't talk much about them because the thousands of others like them carry a similar burden, and most are able to carry on smartly but suffer in silence or isolation. And others of us carry on not so smartly, of which I was part of that brood. The phrase, "thank you for your service," kind of makes my teeth itch. Because when I got out, I didn't need thanks. I needed somebody to teach me how to fish. And a lot of the times, all that really means is casting your bait and having a seat. And being with that person, being able to mentor and coach and inspire somebody to achieve something and leverage all of their potential. That is what this ship and this crew provides. We're driving a sea change in the conversation about veteran struggles and finding novel ways to help people leverage their robust skills and abilities towards meaningful and dignified pursuits. Because in the immortal words of Dan Quayle, it's a question of whether we're going forward into the future or past into the back. There are 3 basic options regardless of where you go in life. You can lead, follow, or get out of the way. Where we're going matters. What this crew does matters. How we do it matters more than most people will ever comprehend or appreciate. We choose to lead. And that is why I, for reasons I don't fully comprehend, feel that there is no other work that I would rather do. And truthfully, at this point in my life, there is no other place I would rather do it. So thank you all for coming tonight. Thank you for helping us celebrate the people who share our spirit and our commitment. And thank you for celebrating the branch of military that I find most dear in my heart. Thank you.
I'd vote for you. Continuing with our awards celebration. For the past 248 years, the U.S. Navy has proudly explored the 7 seas to the farthest reaches, to the poles, to the greatest depths of the oceans. This exploration has not been just limited to physical expeditions. The Department of the Navy has brought us countless new technologies, and in 2022, Secretary of the Navy Del Toro launched the Navy Innovation Center to go even further, to advance for the Navy and to our public. In fact, many products we use today are inspired by military necessity, bringing us things like duct tape, super glue, WD-40, and Pringles. Where would we be today without the Army's necessity for dried potatoes? But tonight, with our inaugural Innovation and Exploration Award, we go even better. We are recognizing an extraordinary woman whose innovation and exploration has changed our world, who served our surface Navy at the Naval Surface Warfare Center in Dahlgren, Virginia, and gave us our amazing, and in many cases, life-saving, Global Positioning System, or GPS. Please join me in watching this short tribute.
The Innovation and Exploration Award recognizes those who have made transformative contributions to how we live, what we know, and the way we engage with one another and the world. It honors those who exemplify the spirit to propel society beyond its limits, pioneering new technologies and strategies that have global reach and impact. The 2023 Innovation and Exploration Award winner is Dr. Gladys West. Born in Sutherland, Virginia in 1930, Gladys West realized that the way to build a life that was as big as she wanted was to obtain an education. The valedictorian in her high school class, she went on to obtain a bachelor's and master's degree in mathematics from Virginia State University, a master's in public administration from the University of Oklahoma, and a PhD in public administration from Virginia Tech. It was at the Naval Proving Ground in 1956 that Dr. West began her career, and during her 42 years of service, she played an integral role in the development of the Global Positioning System technology that is such an important part of American life today. She also worked as project manager for the Radar Altimeter Data Processing Project of CSAT, the first satellite designed for remote sensing of the Earth's oceans, for which she received a commendation. Married to retired mathematician Ira West for 65 years, Dr. West is a mother of 3, a grandmother of 7, and a great-grandmother to 5. As one of her grandchildren describes her, she is an inspiration to many, not just by her work for the government, but for her ability to overcome all odds without a single complaint. Her dedication and work ethic in both the workplace and community show her innate ability to lead by example.
I want to be her when I grow up. Would Mr. Joe De Pietro please join me on stage? I'm a hugger.
So I guess I'm old school because I still have little notes in my pocket. So first, I just want to say thank you and good evening. I'm really grateful to be here tonight and recognize the visionary individuals who are inspiring the next generation through their remarkable contributions to service, innovation, and leadership. One other thing I'd like to do, and I know we talk about all the folks that are involved in this, but I would like to thank all who prepared this weekend's festivities and make this award ceremony and to recognize these amazing Americans to come to life. So a round of applause to everyone who's involved in this, please. The weird part about this is usually at work they tell me to slow down, and you told me to go faster when I was up here. So I'm gonna do my best and hopefully not get in trouble for that. Again, I'm truly honored to have the privilege of presenting this first annual Freedom of Seas Innovation and Exploration Award. This award acknowledges individuals who embody the spirit of pushing society beyond its boundaries through revolutionary research and the development of technologies that profoundly influence the knowledge and capabilities of people worldwide. At Lockheed Martin, we understand the importance of raising the bar in research and development to create innovative technologies and to integrate capabilities to ensure those who serve, like you were talking about, sir, even those veterans that come home, to ensure that those who serve always are ahead of ready. We also know that we're not the only ones moving the needle in innovation. Dr. Gladys West, a mathematician, a United States Air Force Hall of Fame inductee, a Webby Lifetime Achievement Awardee, is a true pioneer in the realm of research and development. Her unwavering commitment to the pursuit of knowledge and continuous development has made a lasting and positive impact in the world. Gladys is known today for her groundbreaking contributions to mathematical modeling in the shape of our Earth, and played an integral role in the development of the Global Positioning System, also known as GPS. And I know, Tom, you did everything by the stars, but the GPS thing works pretty good. From a young age, Gladys always had a passion for learning. We talked about her seeing her full scholarship to Virginia State College, now Virginia State University, where she earned a bachelor's and master's degree in mathematics and eventually received a PhD from Virginia Tech. She faced the hardships of segregation in Virginia State's government, and she finally began the career in 1956. She was the second African-American woman ever hired and only one of 4 to tour in the Naval Proving Ground that we now call Naval Surface Warfare Center Dahlgren Division, which I had the privilege of going to many, many moons ago. This started her journey into an astonishing career that defied odds and proved that African-American women can change the world. Gladys was always admired for her ability to solve intricate mathematical equations by hand until technology advanced, and then she took over and transitioned to programming the computers to do it for her. Despite the discrimination and segregation deeply rooted in society, during much of her career, Gladys preserved and tirelessly fought against those adversities to demonstrate her true value and to make a lasting impact on industry. And without GPS, modern civilization would be lost. As a matter of fact, I don't think my 22-year-old knows how to navigate with a map. He thinks that job belongs to his iPhone, which it does because of GPS. Dr. Gladys West truly embodies the spirit of a research pioneer and has helped propel our society beyond its limits. On behalf of Lockheed Martin, it is my honor to present the first annual Freedom of the Seas Innovation Exploration Award to Dr. Gladys West.
So Dr. West couldn't physically be with us tonight, so we are live streaming this evening's events. She is watching us from Virginia with her family. Dr. West, we're so glad you could join us tonight. And to accept the award on her behalf is our representative, the XO of Naval Surface Warfare Center Dahlgren, who will say a few words, and then we'll do the presentation. He won't be bringing it back on the plane, Dr. West. We'll ship it carefully, and we'll present it formally at Naval Surface Warfare Center Dahlgren. For you.
Thank you, Admiral Shatinsky, for pointing out that I'm not Dr. Gladys West. I wasn't sure if everyone would get confused. Yeah, I'm not Dr. Gladys West, but it is my honor to accept this award for her on her behalf for NSWC Dahlgren Division. Dr. West, who's 93 years young this year, and recognize and celebrate her contribution to naval innovation and exploration. You heard some of Dr. West's history from the video and from Joe, but let me just recap that she was a Virginia native, and that's where Dahlgren Division is headquartered. She began her career at the Naval Proving Ground, later become NSWC, in 1956, and we mentioned that she was only the second African-American woman hired and one of 4 at the time. As we mark the Navy's 248th birthday and NSWC's 105th anniversary and the 75th anniversary of desegregation in our nation's military, I take pride in letting everybody know that our workforce at NSWC has grown from the 4 African Americans in 1956 in the last 63 years by 100-fold, and 50% of those are African American women. Dr. West was recruited to work on Dahlgren's newest computers at the time, after she was done programming by hand. And due to her mathematical prowess, she was first assigned to the CSAT project that we saw in there. And she created the foundation for GPS modeling for the Earth due to the satellites that were required to map weather systems on the ocean. And that seems pretty easy. The Earth is round, right? No, it's flat, right? Okay. You ask the BMD folks, it's flat. But the Earth is not round, and it doesn't always stay the same shape due to tides and influences, so the calculations are very, very difficult and critical. Her work was the foundation of the World Geodetic System, and it's gone through some refinements, but in 1984, that's still the standard that we use today for navigation on your iPhones and for ships across the ocean. Although I didn't overlap my time with Dr. West, unfortunately, I can say as a surface warfare officer, with my many hours upon the ocean, it is not hyperbolic that I owe my safety and my life to her work. Thank you, Dr. West. It is fitting that the first annual Innovation Exploration Award presented to an employee from NSWC is done so on board USS Iowa and the Surface Navy, National Surface Navy Museum. I'm standing under the barrels, turret 3, of one of Dahlgren's biggest icons, the 16-inch gun. Developed and tested on our naval proving ground, the 16-inch gun was integral to our history of naval prowess, installed not only on our mighty battleships, but also formed the foundation of a coastal defense system that bristled our shores. And I took a jog after we flew in on Thursday night, Friday morning, and you can see the old placements that are up here on the west coast of the United States. They're still there. The sound of the 16-inch gun booming across the Potomac River would have been a common sound for Dr. West to hear. It was still used for many decades to test innovations in ordnance, targeting, and data collection. And while GPS doesn't tower over us as a symbol of naval power like the barrels of Turret 3 behind me, it is an impact that has been far-reaching and more impactful to our daily lives, and highlights the diverse research that is underway at NSWC every single day. It is a reminder that future innovation will have many faces, and Dahlgren will continue to push the boundaries of research, development, in ordnance, directed energy, improved weapon systems, and predictive analysis. Once again, I thank Dr. West for her pioneering and innovative spirit. Congratulations to Dr. Gladys West.
Dr. West, thank you so much. Thank you, Dr. West.
Let me put this down.
It's heavy. And he was new school. He brought his iPhone up.
And then it's you. Oh, yeah.
Yep.
Oh, you got it.
You did this already, right?
You're going to introduce Dr. Brendan, so just go ahead and do the video.
Ladies and gentlemen, one more video, if you please. You know, I'm often asked after I retired, do I miss the Navy? And I miss that. This United States Naval Academy graduate has commanded U.S. Navy ships, a strike group of ships, and half of America's surface Navy as Commander Naval Surface Forces Atlantic. As commanding officer, he has won the Battle E and Battenberg Cup. Ashore, he deployed to Iraq with an Army Civil Affairs Brigade, ran the J-5 Israeli desk of the U.S. European Command, and directed the U.S. Sixth Fleet's Maritime Operations Center. He is currently assigned to Commander U.S. Third Fleet, my old stomping grounds, and has been nominated to be the next commander of all naval surface forces. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome our keynote speaker, Rear Admiral Brendan McLean. I get a hug! We're having a Third Fleet moment.
Thank you very much for that kind introduction. And I extend my thanks and gratitude to the National Museum of the Surface Navy for the gracious invitation and the honor of speaking with this illustrious group. It is a rare opportunity to be in the company of such distinguished military, community, and industry leaders. And I thank you for your unwavering support of our sailors and their families, our great Navy, and to note, as of last week, 248 years old. And on a personal note, it is great to be back here. 32 years ago, I reported to my first ship, the USS Lewis B. Puller, here in a shipyard in San Pedro. And I have so many wonderful memories of that great ship and our amazing home port of Long Beach. So much of what I am today goes back to what I learned from my captain, Gary Erickson, and my shipmates, for which I'm extremely grateful. Remembering those who came before us is part of the reason we are here tonight. So as we enjoy this wonderful evening aboard this famous battleship, we have an opportunity to take stock and reflect on the rich history and heritage of our Navy and the legacy of generations of American sailors who inspire and guide those who serve in uniform today as we deploy forward and preserve the freedom of the seas. The crew of the nearly 3,000 young sailors who took USS Iowa to sea and helped our nation prevail in World War II came from every walk of American life in every state in our country. They served during the decisive time in America's history, and when called, they were ready. Their ship was ready, and they were there where it mattered, participating in critical operations in the Marshall Islands, the Marianas, and the Philippines, particularly the Battle of Leyte Gulf that helped shape our Navy and win decisively. Today, we also serve our nation during a decisive and consequential time in our history. As someone who has led today's young generations of America, most recently during a deployment to the Middle East through the global pandemic, I saw firsthand that our sailors today possess the same toughness, grit, and self-sufficiency as the young Americans who served aboard Iowa more than 80 years ago. So just in context, when we were on deployment in 2020, we left not knowing that there was a global pandemic about to start. It was February. And once we found out, along with the rest of the world, you guys remember what that was like. Countries shut down, airports shut down, and logistics shut down too. And we were in a position where we were at sea, and we used the metaphor of raising the drawbridge. The drawbridge was up, nobody was going to come on board, nobody was going to leave, and we weren't going to pull in anywhere, no tech reps were going to come help us, we're going to have to figure it out on ourselves. And that's exactly what we did. We set the record for consecutive days at sea, 205, and those were our two oldest ships. That was USS Dwight D. Eisenhower and USS San Jacinto, 42 and 35 years old at the time. And then by the time we got back to our home port, one of our ships in our strike group had to stay behind. They were a BMD ship, USS Stout, and they were on a different deployment order, although they were part of our strike group, kind of a long Navy admin story. Fifth Fleet held on to them, so they got to run up the score to 215 days of consecutive service at sea. So I'd like to offer you a quick snapshot of how our Navy is operating right now, on watch, forward deployed and ready to protect and defend our nation's interests. 2 weeks ago, Hamas heinously attacked Israel. This terrible attack required a strong response from America because we stand with our allies when they are in need. As Admiral Stavridis once said, the United States has many partners, many allies, but with Israel, it's family. Within hours of these horrific attacks, and because our Navy is always forward deployed, we were there, on call, living true to the axiom that when things go horribly wrong in the world, the National Command Authority's first question is, where are my strike groups? The ships of the Gerald R. Ford Carrier Strike Group, commanded by Rear Admiral Eric Eslich, made up of Normandy, Thomas Hudner, and Ramage, were joined by 2 ships of our forward deployed naval force in Europe, Bulkley and Roosevelt. All of them answered this call. And just this Thursday, a day after she had transited through the Suez Canal, USS Carney shot down 3 land attack cruise missiles and 8 drones that were heading towards Israel and had been launched by Iranian-backed Houthi rebels in Yemen. And for those of you who have been through the Suez Canal, it's a good 24 to 36 hours straight. Everybody's up, involved in that evolution. So to be able to turn that around and the alertness it takes to be able to respond that quickly when your number's called goes to show how great the sailors on USS Carney are. And as Ford Carrier Strike Group carries out their new mission, the Eisenhower Carrier Strike Group in Norfolk accelerated their deployment and left last Friday. Meanwhile, here in the Pacific, Carl Vinson, Sterrett, Kidd, Princeton, and William P. Lawrence are preparing their final steps for their deployment. This is all while Ronald Reagan Carrier Strike Group continues its patrol in the Pacific, and the Bataan Amphibious Readiness Group operates in the waters of the Middle East and the Mediterranean. No other Navy can simultaneously assemble and deploy such a combat-credible force in 5 different locations around the world. For more than 25,000 sailors who are underway on our ships, these deployments are a fulfillment of a profound calling to serve our country and a dedication to our Navy's highest values of honor, courage, and commitment. Like every week for the past 248 years, our Navy is standing the watch. In times of peace and war, we can be found on the high seas and below, in the air and in space and in cyber, so that our citizens have the chance to live in freedom, as well as the citizens around the globe who are, like us, committed to following the rules-based international order. The Navy is as critical to our nation today as we were on our birthday, the 13th of October, 1775. And we can all be proud and honored to carry on that 248-year legacy. Ian Toll, the author, recounts in his book, 6 Frigates, that 248 years ago, the Continental Congress appointed a Marine Committee and charged its 7 members with the task of organizing a Navy. The committee met each evening in a private room on the 2nd floor of City Tavern, a block from the Philadelphia waterfront. Huddled in front of a fire with the noise of a boisterous tap room rising through the floorboards, 7 audacious neophytes invented the U.S. Navy. John Adams, later our 2nd president, remembered these meetings as the pleasantest part of my labors of the 4 years I spent in Congress. Based on their work, Congress authorized the construction of 13 light frigates designed by 2 visionary American shipwrights, Joshua Humphreys and John Wharton. Their work set us on the path of becoming a maritime nation. Throughout our history, a strong Navy underwrote American influence around the world, expanded economic opportunities for the American people, and, especially after World War II, for the rest of the world as well. Our Navy guaranteed the rules-based order underpinning global security and prosperity. So let me place this in greater context and perspective. It's already been said several times, and I love this stat that 90% of all global commerce travels by sea. And this is especially relevant here to this city. Here in the port of Long Beach, we are standing in the epicenter of sea commerce and the economic vitality of our nation. The indispensable goods and services, especially our petrochemical energy imports, provide the lifeblood of the American economy. And they get here after transits through heavy sea traffic, through the world's strategic choke points like the Panama Canal, the Strait of Hormuz, the Strait of Malacca, and the Strait of Gibraltar, in often dangerous maritime security environments. Without an enduring American naval presence, our nation and our world would be in a much darker and less prosperous place. In this, we know that America's prosperity is intrinsically tied to the sea, in need of a capable Navy ready to do our nation's bidding. It is also fitting that we reflect on the power and innovation of our people, the American sailor. Our Navy's enduring advantage is our people, our sailors. Trained, educated, resilient, American sailors power our Navy. For 248 years and counting, our Navy has been keeping the freedom of the seas. And I ask this evening that you keep our American sailors at the forefront of your thoughts and prayers, for it is their commitment to the Navy that continues to deliver on the profound trust our nation places in us to keep it safe. The profound trust of the American people inspires us with a great sense of purpose. We are fortunate to live in a country that values military service, for we serve a cause greater than ourselves. While I firmly believe the commitment to serving the American people is enduring, we cannot take it for granted and must invest our time and resources to educate future generations of Americans about naval service and ensure we create the conditions favorable for attracting our best and brightest young people. And we've seen this all tonight here. Museums like our Battleship are perfect for that. But that will only work if we enforce the value of service to our nation at home and in our communities, because our sailors come from every community across America. Our best and brightest are and must continue to be a reflection of the rich cultural diversity and tapestry that makes America unique and better than our strategic competitors. As a nation of immigrants, we've always been proud of our vast cultural heritage. This is also true of our Navy, and it's especially true of the sailors on our ships. The crews of our ships remain the most diverse among all the Navy warfare communities, and that ranges from the firemen in our engine rooms to our commanding officers on the bridge. Our ships provide an amazing opportunity for women and men of all backgrounds to serve our nation and thrive as far as their talents and ambition will take them. We need more young Americans to serve our Navy. In closing, I know that our Navy will continue to be the vanguard of our nation's ability to project power and preserve the freedom of the seas. With your continued confidence and trust, our Navy will continue to underwrite the security of our nation. We remain laser-focused on sharpening our competitive edge, strengthening our team, and ensuring our sailors are ready, mentally and physically, to operate in the challenging and austere environments at sea, to fulfill the priorities of our Acting Chief of Naval Operations, Admiral Lisa Franchetti: command the sea, preserve the peace, and win decisively when called to action. The expectations of our Navy are high, and we embrace them with a steadfast determination. We commit ourselves to building and sustaining a Navy team that you will remain proud of, confident in our victory as the Americans of World War II were with the sailors of USS Iowa. Thank you, may God bless you, and may God bless America.
Boat McLean in what year? Okay, we are now rolling into our Capstone Award for the night, the Freedom of the Seas Award. Since the founding of America's Navy on October 13, 1775, America's ships have sailed the world's oceans, ensuring freedom of the seas for America and the world. Especially during the past 77 years since the end of World War II, America's surface Navy has been on point, enabling peace, freedom, and free enterprise to an extent never before seen in the history of our world. Tonight, we're honoring one of America's surface Navy sailors, a surface warfare officer who has had the watch ensuring freedom of the seas for 43 of those years. As a surface warfare officer, Admiral Phil Davidson has commanded a frigate, a cruiser, a strike group of ships, and the U.S. Sixth Fleet. Admiral Davidson retired from the Navy after serving as our past commander of the U.S. Indo-Pacific Command, the oldest and largest of America's combatant commands. Please join me in watching this video.
Freedom of the Seas Award recognizes an accomplished leader who embodies the core principles of America's surface navy, which are to protect and defend our oceans for the benefit of the free world. The 2023 Freedom of the Seas Award recipient is Admiral Philip Davidson, the former 25th Commander of United States Indo-Pacific Command, America's oldest and largest military combatant command, which includes 380,000 personnel and is responsible for all U.S. military activities in the Indo-Pacific, covering more than 50% of the world's population. Admiral Davidson previously served as the commander of U.S. Fleet Forces Command, Naval Forces U.S. Northern Command. Before that, the Admiral served as Commander, U.S. 6th Fleet, and Commander, Naval Striking and Support Forces NATO, while simultaneously serving as the Deputy Commander, U.S. Naval Forces Europe and U.S. Naval Forces Africa.
The U.S. Navy is critical to the role of the Freedom of the Seas. It's done so much to assure the free communication of the trillions of dollars of goods that move across the seas annually. That's also important. The arbitrary imposement of rules on the seas would just be a disaster in terms of the relations between countries, the free transmittal of goods, and people think materially about those things all the time, but it's really about the movement of innovations and ideas and things like that that's so important to the global economy, as well as our collective security and prosperity. For many across the globe that don't enjoy the freedoms that our republic or other democratic societies provide, we're really their hope, and it's worth our service. And for those of us in America, it is a principle that should unite us throughout. One of the things that I frequently talked about to our young leaders in the Navy when they were seeking leadership advice, how-to kind of things, is I always conveyed that you have to be able to communicate, and you have to communicate what you believe. And that thing that you believe has to be common to the entire group. And the thing that you believe is always about the mission. In the United States Navy, it's 14 magic words: to be prepared to conduct prompt and sustained combat, incident to operations at sea. That is the mission that we should and inspire to all rally around. And it's what gives a leader purpose when they convey that mission to their subordinates. When I think of service in this nation, whether I think about my own service in the United States Navy or the service of friends and relatives I know that are serving their community, their church, the thing that struck me so hard in the Navy is whether you did this for 4 years or you did it for 40 years, it was an incredibly important contribution to those around us. And I found it incredibly worthwhile. And I hope all the people that I served with over time, found that service worthwhile as well. I commend it to anybody, whether it's in your community or all the way up to the United States of America. It is noble work, and we'd love to see you doing it.
Thank you very much. It is, I am the capstone, and that is the last of the evening. So I'm standing between you and the bar. Fortunately for you, I'm a sailor. Thank you, Mike. Thank you to the National Museum of the Surface Navy and the Battleship Iowa, that I am just stunned that you would consider me, let alone select me for this honor. I am truly, truly humbled. My thanks go out to Ambassador O'Brien, the chairman here, Jonathan Williams, of course, the president and CEO, and Rear Admiral Mike Shatinsky, and all involved with the museum. It has been a magical night, so thank you. I'd like to add my congratulations and my admiration for the service of Dr. Gladys West, Treasurer Fiona Ma, and Ms. Stephanie Hill, and for their recognition today, as well as the Gravely Scholarship Essay winners. Your contributions to our Navy and to the state of California are frankly without peer. Service to our nation, to our fellow men and women, comes in myriad form, but you are examples Americans can undeniably aspire to become. So thank you for your service. Like many of you, I've had the chance to learn anew this week about the Battle of Leyte Gulf because this is the anniversary. I hope you realize it is more than the largest naval battle of World War II. It is the dawning of the U.S. Navy's command of the sea. The history of Iowa is there, but it's there for an array of other ships as well. Princeton and Birmingham, Johnston, Howell, Herman, and Samuel B. Roberts, St. Lo, Intrepid, and Enterprise, amongst many, many others, all of whom swept the enemy from the sea and whose courage, whose pluck, whose resolve delivered a legacy of freedom on the seas for nearly 80 years now. No commemoration seems adequate to the benefits accrued to us today in this nation. In my book, their World War II legacy is actually unequal. I'm also thankful that there are so many here with such interest for the evolving security environment and what it means for the United States, our deepening diplomatic, economic, security, and defense challenges, and what the freedom of the seas means to confronting them. Why? Well, we are seeing in real time what authoritarian powers and outright evil are truly capable of, even in this, the 21st century. Russia's invasion of Ukraine and Hamas's diabolical assault in Israel are proof of that. Until last year, and for much of this century, experts spoke of an emerging multipolar world. In fact, many welcomed the idea, hoping for a new set of security alignments and providers and the possibility of change to the international community of nations, the global power structure we've known now for nearly 80 years. Others noted the changes in relative national power around the world, in combat and economic power, in population, in diplomatic reach, in access to resources, and changes to political alignments. And they concluded the West was in decline. America hoped at best that a rising global economy and a tolerable amount of competition between nations would bring economic and security tensions only on the margins. That liberal values, that is to say, the political and moral philosophy based on the rights of the individual, liberty, consent of the governed, and equality before the law, that these liberal values would be lifted and expanded automatically in nations like Russia, like China, and in places like the Middle East and elsewhere with a rising global economic tide. And at worst, well, we can see what the world looks like now. The attempted deliberate destruction of another sovereign state, Ukraine by Russia, the organized rape and murder of Israeli citizens in their homes by Hamas, the erosion of international and operating norms in the South China Sea and around Taiwan by the People's Republic of China. Need I go on? Indeed, in all, well more than half the world lives under authoritarianism and chaos, and the trend is worsening. That fact alone is the very real and very present destruction of the liberal values we as Americans hold dear in this country. It is sickening. This is the real world. In the United States, there will always be some who'll argue that this is not a threat to the homeland or Americans widely, so not to worry. To other nations, perhaps Ukraine or Israel seem even farther away. But those arguments are flat wrong. The preservation of order in the international community is absolutely in our American interest, and I would submit in the world's interest as well. I had the very good fortune to go to Mount Rushmore a year ago, first time in my life. Had never been there. It's an extraordinary marvel. And while you're sitting there just looking at the amazing engineering feat that it is, the pride and hope that you feel for your fellow Americans as they flock to this national monument is incredible as well. They have also an extraordinary museum about how it's constructed. And in there's a quote by Theodore Roosevelt he gave when he was running for office the second time in New York City in 1912. And in that quote, it says, "We, here in America, hold in our hands the hopes of the world, the fate of the coming years. And shame and disgrace will be ours if in our eyes the light of high resolve is dimmed, if we trail in the dust the golden hopes of men." For Americans, what is that high resolve? To me, it's the first principle that our founding fathers gave us, that we would live without arbitrary restraint, honoring not just the values of equality before the law, individual rights, and the consent of the governed, but also that we would ensure the freedoms enjoyed by our fellow Americans as if they were our very own. Arbitrary restraint. Thomas Paine, the author of the Revolutionary War pamphlet Common Sense, made clear its universal appeal by writing, "The cause of America is in great measure the cause of all mankind." That cause isn't nebulous. That cause is unalienable, as our founders outlined. If we can remember nothing else, we should remember freedom from arbitrary restraint, simply as life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. One only need to look at what's happening in Ukraine, in Israel, in Xinjiang, Tibet, and Hong Kong to know that that is exactly what's at stake: life and liberty. So let's bear that in mind for a few moments. Many of you know my Senate testimony of more than 2 years ago now. I was asked by one of the senators, "What does China's very alarming activities in the Indo-Pacific do to your timeline with regard to any potential conflict or timeline in the Taiwan Strait?" And I said, "I think our concerns are manifest this decade and in fact in the next 6 years." That made a little news at the time, wasn't necessarily universally embraced in the days immediately after, but since has gained quite a bit of traction in the United States and abroad. But that line isn't the whole story. We must remember that this potential for conflict is not the entirety of the PRC's strategy and execution. The ends of their strategy are not Hong Kong, Tibet, the Uyghurs, the South China Sea, nor even Taiwan. The ends are to subjugate its neighbors, supplant the United States' role as the global leader, and replace the global system with one with the Communist Party of China's characteristics. We know this because they have told us, and they told us again in an international conference this week. Now, there is little doubt that a failure of deterrence and then direct conflict in the Taiwan Strait or the East China Sea would be a human and economic disaster unlike any other in the post-World War II era. But it will be an even bigger disaster to see the economic and security architecture across the Indo-Pacific, indeed the globe, dismantled and recast under the PRC's leadership or some other evil entity at the expense of US security and prosperity as a result of such a conflict in the East China Sea. We simply must deter and be prepared to defeat the kind of adventurism by China, by Russia, and by any other that would destroy the interests, indeed, the cause of all mankind, for the sake of imposing their authoritarian or evil own. So it is absolutely in our American interest to help prevent outcomes like this. That is certainly the case for our ally Israel, and even for countries as far away as Taiwan and Ukraine. Because ultimately, our prosperity, our security simply depend on it. Now, for the United States and for the world, there is much to be done economically, diplomatically, technologically, and yes, militarily in the Indo-Pacific region, indeed the world, to prevent war and be prepared to fight and win. But for us, it should be no mystery why our interests begin with the freedoms we must derive from the sea. I mentioned earlier the first principle of our founding, that we would not be subject to arbitrary restraint. That principle holds true at sea as well. The United States is now, and always has been, a trading nation. In the earliest days of our country, we battled the Barbary pirates to protect our trade and our citizens in the Mediterranean. We went to war with the British in the War of 1812, in large part to stop the impressment of our merchant sailors into the Royal Navy and preserve our ability actually to conduct our trade with enough sailors to do it. Many, me included, call this our second war for independence because it preserved not only our trade, but ultimately our independence as a nation. Today, trillions of dollars of international trade traverse the seas annually. Some 90% of the world's goods go by sea. Countless trillions of financial information travel on cables beneath the sea. The safe transit, the safe conduct, the very freedom that we enjoy on the sea is largely defined by the agreements fostered by international institutions led by the United States in the wake of World War II and shaped so that all, not the United States, not just the United States, all may benefit. Your Navy is at sea every day in the Atlantic, the Mediterranean, the Arctic, the Indian Ocean, and the farthest reaches of the vast Pacific, everywhere, as a guarantor of those freedoms. There, your Navy ensures that safe passage is possible, and where another nation's imposition of arbitrary restraint might appear, they're up to the challenge. Let me say it another way. I've always wondered why naval battles never capture this country's attention like land battles do. Midway, certainly. Leyte Gulf, maybe. But naval battles are lesser known simply because your Navy is at sea every day in peace and war. Admiral McLean mentioned the engagements of the USS Kearney in the Red Sea here just some 60 hours ago. Really short time. You know what? It's another day in the Navy. It is why the founders decided we must provide and maintain a Navy and not just raise one. So make no mistake, your Navy is here to assure your prosperity. Second, it has long been axiom that the United States has two giant oceans to protect it. Nonsense. Your US Navy is the asymmetric force uniquely capable on this earth of operating over the vast distances of those two oceans and more. And the Navy does it above, below, and on the sea like no other. As long as I was in the Navy, nearly 43 years, we benefited from the use of space communications and sensors. You heard about that earlier. And the use and abuse of the electromagnetic spectrum to hide ourselves, deny enemy defenses, and project our power. We had the very good fortune to hear two geniuses today, Ms. Hill and Dr. West, talk about their contributions to this. And we did this in the Navy, all while using an ever-evolving array of unmanned, smart, robotic, and other off-board sensors and weapons. And if you don't think we haven't been doing it for the last 140 years, see me afterwards and I'll give you a list. And we have the sailors with the know-how to use them, advance them, revolutionize them, and embrace the transformation that's necessary right here on the immediate horizon. And I consider myself quite lucky to have served with them. The advantages of aircraft carriers, submarines, our surface force, our destroyers who can shoot a missile with a missile in space, and all the rest accrue to the United States. So make no mistake here either, your Navy is here for your security. Now, as I said, there's much to be done economically, diplomatically, technologically, and yes, throughout our joint military force to prevent war and be prepared to fight and win. But to me, it starts with a strong United States Navy. Now, I speak quite frequently throughout the United States, and wherever I go, Americans respond to that and say they get it, and they want to know what it takes to keep it up. It only takes the will. Think of it. The rest of the world is counting on us. Think about what they make of the security environment. Not here in the United States, not Japan, not the UK, not another NATO nation. The rest of the world, countries like Ukraine and Taiwan, there's like 140 of them that exist outside the US alliance system. Is their cause worthy of us? Is it in our interest? If not, do countries like Israel, Ukraine, and Taiwan simply abandon the international order and submit to arbitrary and despotic rule? Bend the knee? In that case, you think they will be free to exchange with us, trade with us, or share their innovations or ideas with us? How about us with them? Does our prosperity and our security depend upon those exchanges? I'll tell you what I think the rest of the world is pondering. They're really wondering, are we still a nation of high resolve? I think we are. It's in the spirit that the founders gave us. It's in the spirit of the tens of thousands of sailors who served at the Battle of Leyte Gulf, as well as the thousands of US Navy sailors at sea and on duty tonight. I know our commitment to that resolve is hard work. I know it is expensive. I know it is risky. I know it is a burden unique to this nation. But make no mistake, our lives and liberty, the cause of America, the cause of all mankind, depend on it. I am filled with gratitude for this award tonight, for the very many men and women who have served and who have given their lives in the defense of liberty. It was a privilege to count myself amongst them. I'm deeply honored that you would award me this. Thank you very much, Mike. Thank you to the Surface Navy Museum. God bless our Navy, and God bless the United States of America. Thank you.
It looks like Joanne left a note up here, no more than 3 minutes, Mike. Oh, upside down. I just added a 0 to that. 30. All right. Someone took my book, so I'm going to just, that's okay. I'm going to speak off the cuff. I'd rather do that. And no more than 3 minutes. Anyway, I'm going to wrap things up. Joanne will give us some administrative remarks right now, but I'm going to ask and answer 3 really quick questions for you to take with you tonight. Why a battleship? Why Los Angeles? And why a Surface Navy Museum? Why a battleship? This ship symbolizes the greatness of America. It was built using children's dimes by Rosie the Riveter in World War II for American sailors to take forward to make the world safe for democracy. American sailors in America helped the world defeat the 3 most evil dictatorships the world had ever seen to that time. And she's continued to serve, mobilized again and again, and now she's here in the port of Los Angeles, mobilized again for a different mission. Why Los Angeles? We are sitting in the combined port of LA, Los Angeles, where 40% of everything that comes into this country over the seas travels into our country to make our economy hum. Excuse me. Yet in this city, a maritime city, in this nation, a maritime nation, Angelenos don't know that not one of every 9 jobs in Los Angeles directly ties to the maritime industry. They don't know that in that kitchen, 9 out of 10 things came from overseas, because 90% of all traffic, commerce comes over the seas. And finally, 99% of all internet traffic travels under the seas. And that's happening because of, and the last question is why a Surface Navy Museum? Is because our Surface Navy is on point, ensuring that freedom of the seas continues, and beyond that, it enables freedom and free enterprise throughout the world. So we don't continue in a bad trend. We don't go in a bad way where more than half the world and more becomes victims of an evil dictatorship, and as in the world we're trending to today. We are, as you've heard today, by a number of counts per TripAdvisor, the number 4 tourist attraction in Los Angeles out of many hundreds, and we're the number 4 museum in Los Angeles out of 150 or so. We will never take out Universal Studios. I'm not content being number 4, but I think we can climb that a little bit. As for museums, I am absolutely confident that someday we will be the number 1 museum in Los Angeles, and we'll be making this entertaining and immersive and something that appeals to America, the younger America, an America that doesn't want us just come look at things. They want to get involved. They want to touch things. They want to play video games. They want to learn about fighting pirates by playing a video game, whatever it is. We're going to build a museum that reaches America so we can educate America about why this is all important. And we'll do that. And they won't even know they're being educated. Nobody likes to be educated. They like to learn. They don't like to be educated, but we will be teaching them in a way that is truly fun, as the #1 museum in Los Angeles and probably the #3 tourist attraction in Los Angeles. Anyway, but we need your support to do that. So please become a plank owner of our museum. Again, we'll be opening the phase 1 of the museum on October 13th, 2025, the 250th birthday of America's Surface Navy, or the Navy, depending if you're an aviator or a submariner or somebody else like that. And with that, Joanne, do you have some administrative marks for us? And I think I actually went 2 minutes and 29 seconds.
You just can't keep these admirals in line. Actually, Admiral Mike, if you would just come back up here for just a moment. I'm not awarding you anything. I need your help. Hold this, please. I love telling the Admiral what to do. Not you, sir. Not you, sir. Maybe you, sir, but not you, sir. Earlier, we had a pledge to donate to the Gravely Award, the Gravely Essay Award, the scholarship. Oh my God. Stop drinking, Mike.
We need to be. Actually, we need to be.
Well, we have a second contributor. Miss Stephanie Hill will be making a donation to the Essay Scholarship Fund. Thank you very much. That's 2, and they say great things happen in 3. So, you know, if someone else out there is willing. Well, I also mentioned earlier. Whoa. Oh, Miss Millie. All right, we've got a third. Miss Fiona Ma. Thank you, Treasurer Ma. They say great things happen in 4s. Just checking. Just want to keep that opportunity out there, Admiral. But I also mentioned earlier that you two now are a part of the USS Iowa's future in the National Museum of the Surface Navy. Well, it takes more than a village to raise this magnificent structure, to care for her rust and her wear. I'm not talking about me, I'm talking about the ship. It takes more than just a vision to produce this interactive Surface Navy Museum to honor those who have gone before us and inspire the next generation. It takes your contribution and your support. So integrate yourself, if you will, in the success of the venue here. And if you are not already a surface sailor, all right, we'll look the other way. And you can, as Admiral Mike mentioned, become a plank owner and be a part of the ownership of this museum. Ask us more about it or see the website. Thank you for allowing me to co-host with you this evening. I call him Admiral Mike because I will butcher his last name. Thank you for initiating the National Museum of the Surface Navy. Thank you, Jonathan, wherever you're hiding. There you are in the back. For making the USS Iowa a household phrase. And a shout out to the crew here on the ship as we conclude this ceremony, who have worked tirelessly all months and day and everything. Thank you so much. A beautiful ceremony here. And a respectful salute to all of you, our guests, for sharing this evening and supporting the freedom of the seas. As you leave this evening, Mike, if you will, do your Vanna. Fincantieri has offered this glass as your souvenir. Every event needs swag, and I'm looking forward to taking home my complimentary glass because I don't drink enough at home. So
May I fill this for you now?
yes, you may. And ladies and gentlemen, that will conclude our evening. But before you leave, I would ask our 4 award winners to please join us on stage for one group photo. Will our Dahlgren team please join us for Miss West Award, please? Emma? Thank you, thank you, thank you, and you look sharp. Oh yeah, bring your awards up too. We don't want a picture of you.